Hello, Chris Green here with the Flood Insurance Guru. Today we're talking about what role realtors could play when it comes to flood insurance rates, good and bad, and what we have seen and what you as a realtor could do to help these flood insurance rates for customers. So today we're going to be talking about, flooded properties, or maybe if a property is in a special flood hazard area. As a realtor, what you can do to help your clients long term, resale value and things like that. So if this is something that relates to you, make sure to stay tuned to this video. Remember, if you've got questions about flood education, flood zone changes, and flood insurance, make sure to visit our website by clicking below, floodinsuranceguru.com. You can also go to our YouTube channel where we do these daily flood education videos, or even check out the knowledge-based article system on our website. So let's talk about this today, the good, the bad, maybe even the ugly we've seen when it comes to realtors' role on flood insurance. To get a good understanding of this, we really need to go back to Texas around Hurricane Harvey, where you had a lot of people that were not disclosing of how properties had flooded multiple times. They'd go to sell it, property owner would have a flood loss, and after the flood loss, they might find out they had 5 or 6 claims on the property, not one, because it was covered up. This is why the Texas disclosure law in 2019 was actually put out there, was to help protect property owners. They help people disclose all the information, not part of it, so that the buyer could make a good buying decision because they had all the correct information. This law even states now that you have to tell them what flood zone you're in, even if you're in between 2 reservoirs, if your flood risk is higher. So there's a lot of states that can learn from this. So how does this impact flood insurance rates? Well, imagine you're a realtor and there's 3 or 4 claims on there, but you only disclose 1. Property floods again, and it keeps flooding when this risk could have possibly been minimized in the buying process. Now, the National Flood Insurance Program or even private carriers are paying out multiple claims. What this does is it sends flood insurance rates straight up. It may leave it where your buyer doesn't even have an option for private flood insurance. Now they could possibly not even resell this house because the flood insurance premiums are so high. Now let's talk about the good and what you can do as a realtor and what the majority of the time is done by realtors. And that is educating your client. You're making sure they have all the information on that property. If it has flooded multiple times, understanding that. Understanding if it's in a special flood hazard area, what that means, what the flood insurance options are. Now recently we worked with a buyer on a property that had flooded 10 times. But we worked with a realtor, we worked with a buyer, we worked with a local floodplain manager to help the buyer mitigate the risk on this property. Even though this thing had flooded 10 times before, we have now significantly minimized the risk on here. So now it's a different risk. So even though the customer bought it with 10 flood claims on it, it's a different type of risk. So hopefully the property never floods again. So these are some of the roles as a realtor you could play on flood insurance rates. So now this property that flooded 10 times has now been taken off the severe repetitive loss list. And instead of a $16,000 premium, it's at about a $1,200 premium. So you see, as a realtor, you could have a major impact on flood insurance rates, whether it's good, whether it's bad. The important thing is making sure your client understands, first of all the options. If a property has flooded, could it flood again in the future? And absolutely, every property out there could flood in the future. You just want to make sure they understand that risk. So if you've got questions about how to understand these things, how to be an advocate for your client and making sure they understand the options, they understand the risk, as I said, click below to visit our website, floodinsuranceguru.com. Remember, we have an educational background on flood mitigation, which means we're here to help you understand flood risk like this one right here. Your flood insurance and mitigating your property long term to help you minimize flood losses and flood premiums. Thank you.